Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Today is Wednesday, March 16th, 2022, and the NCAA tournament is underway. We had the two games last night, Texas Southern and Indiana, both advancing to now the round of 64, and who knows when Indiana's going to leave Dayton. They had issues getting out of there to go to Portland for their first round game against St. Mary's, so we'll see how that goes for them. Texas Southern also now advancing. You have two games tonight. And then the big dance, it starts tomorrow. You have all the games. So we're going to talk about a lot of that, just a lot of everything with one of my favorite guests out there, Mitch Moss of VSIN. Follow the Money in the morning, 7 to 10 Eastern. And he and Paulie Howard, just an entertaining show. And Mitch, I say this, I'm not just telling you this just to say this, but I don't like listening to a lot of things out there. You're the only thing that's like appointment listening. It really is. Like every morning I get up, I listen to it. I love when you guys recap things. I just love your chemistry. That's the only show, like I say, I watch. I don't watch the ESPN or Fox Sports garbage. It's only you.
Oh, Kevin, you're way too nice. Thank you. That is very much appreciated. That means a lot.
And I want to get to this now. Before we get to the NCAA tournament, which I know is a big thing, how surprised are you that Tom Brady came back?
You know, well, I guess once he retired, how many ever days ago that was, I just kind of took him at his word for it. And it was kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And then, you know, when you fast forward to where we were this past weekend, you heard maybe the Deshaun Watson rumors that, Tampa Bay might be a possibility. And then we're right in the middle of March. And then the whole idea of, baseball, is it going to start? Is it not going to start? They were still locked out. And then NFL free agency is around the corner. So all that stuff is like happening at the same time. And it's like, I never really even thought about it at all. And then once Sunday happened and we're right in the middle of Selection Sunday, because Selection Sunday, and I like to, I'm like anybody, I like to complain about a lot of the seeding and the matchups and what they do. But I mean, come on, Selection Sunday is like one of the best hours for us out of the entire year. I mean, I've loved it since I was, 13, 14, 15 years old. And I will always feel that way. So like the last thing I was thinking about at that time was anything to do with Tom Brady. So when he actually announced it on Selection Sunday, I was like seriously taken aback. I'm like, oh, what? And I would say, hey, nice timing, pal. I mean, can you give college basketball like their hour in the sun? And he could have announced it like later on that night or Monday morning, whatever. But just because I never really had it like on the tip of my tongue per se, I was surprised. It totally caught me off guard. How about you?
You know what? I thought he'd be done. Look, Peyton Manning was shot. Ben was shot. I thought that Brady winning the Super Bowl in Tampa last year, and then they went, he had a career season, it felt like this year at 44 years old. And the way they lost to the Rams. All right, I'm going to leave in a sense on top. Not winning a Super Bowl, but the numbers I put up. So I thought he legitimately would be done when he said that. My problem is, and you saw this with Brett Favre in Green Bay too, like, decide, are you going to stay retired or not? Come on, you still have stuff in the tank left. Why not just say, let me think about it before you go to the retired, thank everybody, and oh, by the way, I want to unretire now.
Yep, I totally agree with that. And here's the thing, like I hope the media and Brady, I hope like everybody combined, they don't make it a big deal next year. Like starting in week 1, well, Tom, is this going to be it? What do we care as the public? Do we care as consumers of that sport now? Because he announced it and then he, rescinded that, and now he's going to be back playing. Like I don't want to make it a big deal, and I don't want to say that this is going to be the goodbye tour. Just when you're done, you're done. Move on. And I don't want, if we hear about this every single week next year, I'm going to throw up.
I'm with you. I am, and I understand that in the NFC. Look, we thought a few weeks ago, Mitch, that Aaron Rodgers would retire or be traded to the Broncos. Tom Brady retired. Okay, so who's the best team in the NFC? Now, all of a sudden, these guys are coming back. The only thing that happened was Russell Wilson going from Seattle to Denver. Is it amazing to you? I know you guys talk about it every morning that the NFL just has this thing it can carry year round. You have baseball coming back, the NCAA tournament, the selection show. It doesn't matter. The NFL can have news and it trumps everything.
Oh, it really does. It has a stranglehold on us as Americans. I mean, it is, the true America's pastime at this point. And the timing of the year, it doesn't make a difference. As you said, the whole Rodgers stuff lasted for about a month. And that was huge, like the day that he announced it, even before then, like when he put that stuff up on Instagram. before even free agency. And I got, as soon as this weekend is over with, because the first round of the tournament is the best weekend of the whole tournament. I've said this many times. It's the only event in this country that gets less appealing as it goes on, because we all love the first 4 days more than anything else. So I think a lot of the attention is going to start gearing up towards the NFL draft, which is going to be more than a month away. But that's what that sport is like and what it's turned into, and we can't get enough of it. And so it dominates, man. And the only slow time for the NFL is going to be post draft, maybe June. But then come July, camps are going to open up, and here we go again. Kickoff is going to be right around the corner.
Yeah, it's really amazing that what the NFL has done. And look, there's been major storylines. Not like we're just saying, oh, this linebacker went here. I mean, you have quarterbacks changing and all this other stuff. I want to shift over, Mitch, to the NCAA tournament. When the brackets came out on Sunday, which games caught your eye right out of the gate when they were announced?
Immediately, Vermont, Arkansas. And now we're talking about just matchups, right? Not the point spreads, because they came a little bit later on in the day.
Both. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We'll go with both. The ones that stuck out to you, and then what you liked after that as far as size you would take.
Okay, so certainly Arkansas and Vermont, to me, is just absolutely compelling. Vermont slows it down. Arkansas likes to get up and down the court. It's a 4 versus 13. Vermont is a super smart team. Veteran-laden kind of group. They don't force, stupid turnovers, that kind of a deal. But here you go. Are they going to be able to dictate tempo in that game? Or if Arkansas dictates tempo, can Vermont possibly beat them like that? I love that matchup. And that region, to me, is very good. The UConn-New Mexico State matchup, Mexico State's good. I mean, winners of the WAC, that's a good basketball team. And I'm actually pretty high on UConn as well. And then above that, my whole thing has been over the years now fading the Mountain West and playing their prop under total amount of wins for the Mountain West Conference in the tournament. And yes, it's the best the league has been in a long time, but I still think some of the matchups they got are not in their favor whatsoever. So I do. Now, that said, I actually do like the Boise State-Memphis matchup and the winner of that game getting Gonzaga. So that whole region is awesome to me. This kind of stinks. I don't like it when they pit teams like Murray State and San Francisco against each other, two of the best mid-majors in the entire country. Well, I want to see, and that's, I guess, a good thing, because St. Mary's will get Indiana after last night. That's what I want to see. I want to see a 30-win team from, one of the lower leagues get one of these fringe teams from a Power 5 or a Power 6 in basketball and see what that looks like in the opening round. But I find that matchup absolutely fascinating. In terms of point spreads, I've been telling myself this all year long for the most part, Kevin, that as a guy from Wisconsin, I watch a lot of their games, probably more than any other team in the country. It's been quite the story. Guard did an amazing job. I think Johnny Davis absolutely had a chance to win the Player of the Year until Sheboy probably, took it down the stretch, because that team is a 10-win team without Davis, in my opinion. But I was going to look to fade Wisconsin if the matchup was right, and then if the number was right. And when I saw Colgate plus 9.5 right away on Sunday afternoon, when other books had 7.5 on it, I mean, clearly the only play for me to make at that point was to grab Colgate plus 9.5. The one trepidation I have going into that game, of course, it's in Milwaukee. So Wisconsin will have home court advantage there for sure. But they've won so many close games. And like I said, Guard did an amazing job. They're not that good. I'm sorry. They don't have a lot of talent on that team. And I think they can be defeated in the opening round. In fact, I'm not going to be surprised if Colgate beats them. And this was not even a pure fade of Providence in their same region, because, Providence and Wisconsin were two of the luckiest teams all year long, and they won a bunch of these close games. I just happened to notice, again, browsing different books, that Providence was laying 3 at one book, but it was 1 or 1.5 at others right away. So I grabbed South Dakota State. And actually, the more I sit on this game and the more I hear about it, nobody's on Providence. And I think that the public, and once they start to come to Las Vegas today, they're going to be all over South Dakota State. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. And I'll be honest, if South Dakota State would somehow go off as the favorite here, I would come back and get off the game and hope for a middle there and grab Providence at that point. Those were some of the games that stood out to me right away.
Now, looking at the teams, you brought up something about David. You didn't mention Davidson, but I'm going to give it to you. Davidson, the top team in Atlantic 10, Michigan State, sixth, fifth, sixth, seventh best team in the Big Ten. And then you also talked about Providence, who, yeah, maybe they were a little fortunate. They weren't the best team in the Big East. Villanova was the best team in the Big East. South Dakota State, undefeated in the Summit League. How do you grade these games when you look at the top team in a league versus a middle tier team in a major league, and how you say, okay, because you're in the Big Ten, the Big East, the ACC, I'm going to give it to you being the fourth or fifth best team against a top team from that league? Or how do you grade that?
Well, I think it kind of comes and goes, because if you recall last year, like, everybody was high on the Big Ten and they totally flopped in the tournament, and everybody was down on the Pac-12 going into the tournament. So not a lot of people were picking like Oregon to upset Iowa or UCLA. I mean, who had UCLA beating Michigan in the first round? That was all about Izzo. It's March. Michigan was State. They're favored. They're going to win the game. And UCLA went on that long run. USC made it to the Elite Eight before they got taken out by Gonzaga. So, I think it's whatever. To me, I look to fade the Mountain West, like I said, almost every single year. And people were down, I think, this year on the Big Ten going in because of what happened last year. Not necessarily me because of certain matchups. I don't have an opinion on the Michigan State-Davidson game because I think that, to some extent there is, or at least was, something to that whole narrative of Izzo and March. You got to trust the guy. That's kind of faded, I think, over recent years. But we saw, obviously, spurts in the Big Ten tournament where it's like, okay, I mean, not his best team by any stretch, but they're still capable enough of, putting a scare into somebody. But also Davidson's a great program, and McCallum is an outstanding coach. So that to me is a game that I'm off of completely. And like for another example, I'll throw the Big Ten and the Mountain West out there again. I just think it's a good matchup for Michigan against Colorado State, and Colorado State had a hell of a year. And I don't even like Michigan, and I don't even think they deserve to be in the tournament. But, a lot of times, and in fact, go back and look at Syracuse last year. People, bitched up and down about Syracuse getting in as an 11. Well, they made a deep run again. And a lot of times these teams that don't deserve to get in and they hear about it the whole week, they catch some fire, do some damage right away, go on a run. And I just, with that plan that I had of fading the Mountain West, if the matchup was right, I think it is right for the Big Ten to get in that spot. And I like Michigan over them. I don't know if that answers your question fully or not, but that's one way that I look at it.
Mitch, coaches. How do you look at coaches in the tournament? Because one matchup that really kind of stuck out was Marquette. And you follow Wisconsin, Marquette, not far in Milwaukee. Shaka Smart had a really up and down season. Down at the beginning of the Big East, they caught fire, then kind of faded off a little bit. But they were a really good underdog this year. And you look back at Shaka Smart's resume during his career in the tournament. Took VCU to the Final Four. Texas, not so great. Lost to Abilene Christian. They lost another game at the buzzer to Northern Iowa. They blew a game in Nevada. Now you get them with a couple points against a North Carolina team. Hubert Davis in his first year as a head coach. How do you judge the coaches in this tournament?
Well, I think it's a huge deal of when you look at matchups and how you break down some of these games. And in that particular matchup, I actually do think, I don't know if this is going to make a lot of sense, but I think Shaka Smart was meant to coach at a spot like Marquette or VCU instead of Texas. I think he'll do a better job at a, quote, lower tier school than something like the Longhorns. And they won the Big 12 last year, won that tournament. They went in scorching hot, had tons of talent, the 3 seed, and lost right away as I think an 8.5 or 9-point favorite, if I recall correctly, in that spot. So but again, a couple things here. I think Marquette may have peaked back in February when you look at overall metrics, and I think it was like early to mid-February, and Bart Torvik has a great site for tracking like power ratings and updated numbers throughout the entire year. Marquette was top 8, top 10 from like when the calendar flipped until early to mid-February. They faded a little bit since. But again, I do like Shaka with a program like this. What do we know about Hubert Davis at this point? Going to Duke in Coach K's final game ever at Cameron Indoor, that was a great performance. Was that also like pressure on the kids at Duke? Would you give Hubert Davis a lot of that credit? I think that's a great question to kick around. But I would say that I'm looking up and down the bracket right now. So I like Larinaga at Miami quite a bit. I think he's a really good coach. I would lean towards Miami, but then you have to realize at Enfield with USC, he's 10-1 ATS in the tournament. I mean, it's an 11-game sample size, but the guy that's not just Gulf Coast when he was there. This is translated to USC as well. And yeah, they got taken out in a body bag by Gonzaga last year, but everybody did, not named Baylor. So I would lean towards like Miami right away. But when you look at it in the tournament, he's had a lot of success. I'll tell you, how about Rick Barnes? I mean, is there not something to this where Rick Barnes has had super talented teams over the years, but he's won 11-1 ATS in his last 13 in the tournament? That to me says something. I mean, that's year after year after year with super talented teams at either Texas or Tennessee. So I would, maybe not this weekend against Longwood, but Tennessee's going to be a super sexy and a trendy team. That dude has to kind of prove it to me. Like he's going to have to go on a run to the Sweet 16 or somehow beat like maybe a Villanova to get to the Elite Eight. I need to see it to believe it out of somebody like him first.
Now, taking away, Mitch, the 1 and the 2 seeds, I think it's kind of ridiculous to say, okay, a 16 is going to beat a 1. We know that was a 1 in a million with UMBC years ago. But now you're getting to the 3, 4, 5s, where I think that the talent level it's kind of narrowed a little bit. That's not as crazy to think a 14 could win, a 13 could win in the first round. Are there 1 or 2 of those teams that maybe you think can pull the upset in the opening round?
Well, I already told you about South Dakota State, although I'm getting a little leery on that because everybody's on it. They're also a 13, and Colgate is a 14. My biggest concern there, again, would be playing in Milwaukee. Longwood's really good, and I just talked about Tennessee. Longwood could shoot, and they're solid. Could they beat Tennessee in the opening round? Look, I mean, we've seen a lot of 3s and 4s go down in recent years, and I know that Chattanooga, I like Underwood a lot, by the way. That's another coach with Illinois. They lost in the second round last year. I thought he did a really good job with the Illini this season. Plenty of people are making a case for Chattanooga in that region. I don't know if I see it because, again, Illinois and down low with the big fella, the Shaq of the Big Ten, as Matt Humans likes to call them, they might have a little bit too much. UAB is a really good story. And how they got here in that triple overtime game in the Conference USA tournament. And keep in mind, by the way, like teams in the conference, out of Conference USA, they shock teams all the time in the tournament. And we're always talking about that like on Saturday or Sunday. Like, look at this. Here you go. Another 12 or 13 from Conference USA winning their first game and playing a second round game. The problem is like Houston and Kelvin Sampson, he's really good. I mean, the fact that their numbers were so high all year long in the metrics, it's unfortunate they had those injuries. But I would look at UAB. I'm not going to be stunned if they put a scare into Houston. And look, I know people are making the case for Montana State to maybe keep it close against Texas Tech. I don't think I see that one. Texas Tech is just so damn good, very well coached. Have the defense that'll kill you over 40 minutes. New Mexico State is a 12 that I would like. And despite Indiana traveling from the East Coast all the way to Portland to play in a game already on Thursday, I think Indiana can play with St. Mary's and give them a scare as well.
Where do you rank that UAB Middle Tennessee State finish as far as bad beats? When it was a back and forth game, Middle Tennessee State led in the second overtime in the Conference USA semifinals. Then UAB had the 11-point lead, the double technicals, the 3 at the end. Where do you rank that bad beat as far as things you can remember in any sport?
Well, the fact that UAB was trailing by 6 in double overtime. So you can't really complain too much. I just think the way it ended was one of the craziest finishes involving the point spread I've ever seen. In terms of an overall bad beat, I don't think you can say it was like the Belk Bowl or the Bahamas Bowl from years ago. I don't think it was that bad just because of what I said. They're down 6. They were fortunate to get a triple overtime. But the way it happened, and they're up by 9, and the kid is going in for a layup with 15 seconds left because he wants to get 100, and I think he was going to score 40 at that point. Just pull it out, run around the court, end the game already. And then they get, the double technical. It was, in terms of like wild finishes with the point spread involved, that's an all-timer to me.
Do you still do brackets?
I don't know, man. I did one for work, and I don't really plan on doing many more. Do you?
You know what's funny is that people have asked me at work, I got to do one for work, and I picked a Final Four, but all the games in between, I always say this, Mitch, it's hard enough to pick today's games. Now you want me to pick a Final Four or an Elite Eight matchup? I got to go 3 rounds ahead. It used to be fun. I think with everything we've done and the blow up of sports betting, it's hard to get motivated with the brackets.
I agree. And by the way, I think as we've gotten older, we realize how difficult it is to win a bracket contest, right? From start to finish. And then it's like, okay, do I go all chalk? Like, do I put in 3 number 1 seeds and then have like a 3 in there, or 2 number 1s, a 2 and a 3? Because if you do that, that's, Captain Obvious, and anybody can do that. But then if you go with some dogs and you pick the wrong dogs, well, then your entire bracket's going to be shot by the Sweet 16. I did mess around a little bit. I put UConn in the Final Four, had them beating Gonzaga early. I know that everybody has Gonzaga power rated to the moon again this year, and they're very good, and I'm not going to be surprised if they cut down the nets, but I don't think they're as good as last year, and I don't think they're as good as what everybody says they are this year. And I think they can be had in their region by multiple teams because somehow they got the bracket of death, although they were the number 1 seed overall. I'm high on Kentucky, and then I like the draws for Arizona, and then Kansas. To me, has one of the weakest regions I can remember. If Iowa gets to the Sweet 16, that'll be a great test for Kansas. But the second round matchup, I think they'll handle San Diego State or Creighton with ease. And then when you look below that, if it's Providence, well, we talked about that team already and how nobody's high on them. Who scares you in the bottom? I mean, I think Auburn peaked probably back in January. Wisconsin, an overrated 3. LSU and Iowa State stink, in my opinion. Like, would USC and Miami, can they shock the world and make a deep run and give Kansas fits? Like, I don't know. That to me is a very easy region. So I did go chalk for half of it. I picked a dog in one of the others.
I heard you guys talking about all the props that are now offered. Will there be a buzzer beater, first to 15, or first field goal? So many things going on. Do you enjoy now, Mitch, more taking props than sides because it's a little more fun?
I mean, yeah. I think I only have. Well, I've bet like 5 or 6 games, whatever, in that range. And I probably have close to that many props already. And it's, again, based on the numbers that you can find, like how many wins will Kansas have? Like I just talked about with their region. It was 2.5 plus 120 is what I found. So you're telling me if they make the Sweet 16, they're clearly favored against whoever is going to be there. And then if it's not Iowa, I will have a nice way to get out of that if I want to, or I'll be sitting on Kansas plus 120 on the money line. So that to me was a really good bet and a really good number. The same thing for Kentucky, 2.5. Maybe San Francisco or Murray State can give them a good run in the second round. I like Kentucky's chances. And then in the third round, it would be a combination of Purdue, Yale, Texas, or Va Tech, and I just don't think Texas has enough firepower to stay with them. Purdue does on offense, but I think Kentucky would kill them with their defense. And then again, I'm looking at Kentucky plus 120 on the money line in the Sweet 16. I like bets like that. And also like Paulie's been really high on the no buzzer beaters, but the number now that you can find at various books, this is for the whole tournament, it's 1.5 and the under is plus 140. I think we have this idea in our heads, Kevin, just because the tournament's been so glorious over the years that we get buzzer beater after buzzer beater, and we don't get a true buzzer beater every year in the tournament. And that means the shot is up, it's good, zeros are on the clock, right? The other team does not have a chance to touch the ball. It's like Suggs last year at the end of the Final Four game for Gonzaga. Puts it up, off the glass and in, that's the ball game. That's a true definition of a buzzer beater. And I went back and looked from, I think it's like 1980 on, we have averaged way less than one buzzer beater a year. I think we had like 25 over the past 30 plus years. So the true definition of a buzzer beater doesn't happen that often. And I would like that. Under again this year. And another one, I typically would go to the under on that prop bet of how many 1 seeds will get to the Final Four. It's always 1.5. And this year, the over is plus money. But like I said, with the draws, I love the Kansas draw. I have Arizona power rated to the moon. I like their draw. And I said I'm down on Gonzaga, but am I going to be shocked? Hell no if they make the Final Four. So I think I haven't bet that one yet, but I think I'm going to over 1.5 one seeds at plus money to make the Final Four.
I just thought of this. So tell me if this is true or not, Mitch, on the buzzer beater. Does that mean a team has to win a game? That what if you have a buzzer beater? What if you're down 10 and you throw up a 3 at the buzzer and it goes in? Does that still count as a buzzer beater, or it's got to be a game-winning buzzer beater?
It's got to be a game-winning buzzer beater.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So,
All right, that one, I just want to make sure that it wasn't something where a kid goes in for a layup at the buzzer, down 8, meaningless, and that counts. So, okay. So, all right, that's fine. I want to ask you this because you've been in Vegas a very long time. What's it like being there for the tournament? I've never been out there for the tournament. It starts tomorrow. How crazy is it? Because you have a 9:15 local start that first game. How crazy is it in the sports books?
And don't forget, by the way, it's St. Patty's Day tomorrow.
Oh, there's going to be no partying going on in Vegas. Okay.
No, zero. Bedlam does not exist in Las Vegas on St. Patty's Day and March Madness weekend. It's crazy. I mean, been here for 20 plus years. And, when I first moved out here at the 24, first time I ever did it, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I can't believe I live here. You go to these sports books. I actually prefer like ballrooms at some of these casinos. And by the way, you can't go wrong. Wherever you go, the casinos will have great spots inside their areas, like a gigantic ballroom, like on the 20th floor or something like that. It doesn't matter where you stay, local spots. It's all great. And then it's games from 9:15 in the morning until, 9:30 at night. And you're watching games with hundreds, if not thousands of people. And they got action on everything with the first team to score, 10, 15 or 20 points. And that's a lot of fun, by the way, when you're around like a big group of guys in for the weekend and they're betting a 16 seed to score 15 points first. And, they're catching 6-1 or in that range, and it's 14-13 and they have the ball. Oh man, is it awesome. Just the atmosphere at a book, and the whole place has it. And if they score, it's a total eruption with like 10-13 on the clock. And, nobody in the world has any idea what's going on. If they're not, if people are, walking by, not there for the madness, like, why are people going nuts? Well, because you can bet on all this kind of stuff. So it's just, the first 2 days are absolutely electric. But I would say this too, like when you're around it enough, you can tell the guys who are out here and maybe for the first time and they hit a little bit too hard on Wednesday night or specifically on Thursday night, because Friday it looks like death warmed over. I mean, it's just, and then and if the guys who are like, just machines and they go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, come Saturday, they're completely pale. They have sunglasses on. They have zero energy. It's like, you maybe hit it a little bit too hard the first 2 days and they just look at you, you're like, yeah, I probably did. But they had a great time, and it's just, it's great.
So who's the most overrated band of all time in your mind?
I have either U2 or Pink Floyd. But
I'll give you one. It's not a band. It's the music that I find overrated. I don't know if you guys talked about this because you talked about this on Follow the Money. I'm not a big Prince fan. Like, I find the music a little annoying.
Do you really?
Yeah. That's
the exact guy that Johnny Avello brought up today from DraftKings. He said he's good. He's really good, but he's not as good as what people say. Called him the most overrated guy that he can recall. And I guess we should have, when we talked about overrated bands, it kind of narrows it down to like rock bands, I think. Because if we would included like, artists or singers or performers or whatever, kind of opens it up a little bit more. And I know that I feel the hate already from the Pink Floyd stuff, just never really my cup of tea. And then I don't care for Bono at all. Not a fan, never have been. I think the music kind of stinks outside of Joshua Tree. And there are others as well. Paulie went with Kiss, all makeup and, all costumes, that kind of a deal. Not as many hits as you would think. But you got to have somebody on the list, right? Some like legendary band has to make the list because that's what the word overrated means. And the Eagles might be on that list.
Well, the other one too is because you and I have worked in radio such a long time. There's been FM stations.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
in the building, depending on the formats, and it's like, how many times are you going to keep playing the same song over and over and over? It's like 8 billion times, and you think you'd mix in some other songs from those artists, be like, oh, that's a decent song from this artist, but no, we hear the same thing over and over. So I think we're just tired of it. I think that's what it comes down to.
You're completely right, because I don't know if it's like the station's refusal of actually putting other songs on the air or what it is, but I brought up AC/DC today. I mean, it's either Thunderstruck or Shook Me All Night Long. Is that all they have? I know they have more than that because I listened to them when I was younger. I know they have better songs, but that's all you ever hear. What was the other band? Is it Crazy Train, Black Sabbath? Do they have any other songs? I know they do because I looked recently, and they have tons of high-level songs. All you ever hear is that song, and there are plenty of examples like that. What do you think about Nirvana?
They got a couple decent songs, but I can understand where stuff gets overplayed. I'm with you on Pink Floyd. I never understood it. And I'm much younger, where I wasn't around for them. I was around for Nirvana, but not for Pink Floyd. But even so, the music, it feels very depressing.
Yeah, I don't find it very like upbeat, or once I hear, once I heard Pink Floyd for the first time, I never thought to myself, man, I can't wait to get home and put that on again and listen to it for the next hour and a half. It's kind of draining, and you kind of got to be in the right state of mind to appreciate it. And I don't, you get it. You know what I'm talking about.
Mitch Moss, you can find him on VSIN. Follow the Money, morning 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern with Paulie Howard. It's really a lot of fun to listen to. You can find it in the VSIN app, and also plenty of stations. How many stations are you on right now around the country on TV?
Well, TV, quite a few. They've done a great job. Nesson, we're on Spectrum in LA, the Lakers station. That's good. Marquee, the Cubs station. We're on Pittsburgh. You have the rights to the Pirates. All over Sportsnet up in Canada. They've done a really terrific job. Hats off to everybody there of getting it on throughout the country in different spots. So we're very fortunate for sure.
All right, Mitch, we appreciate it. You can find him on Twitter at Mitch Moss Radio. Always fun talking to Mitch, and I appreciate you coming on right before the tournament. Mitch, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Kevin. Big fan as well, and enjoy the tournament. Good luck, man.
All right, thanks. You too. All right, there is Mitch Moss right there, and always good work out of him. And that's all we got for today on this episode of the Daily Insider, and we'll talk to you again coming up tomorrow at noon Eastern. And as always, best of luck with your bets.